Rarely I have these existential arguments. Don't you know gamers are probably the most oppressed group of individuals, right? And this is based off something that can absolutely be chosen. Like you can choose just not to interact with games, not to interact with gamers, not to interact with the hobby, but people choose to do this despite the social sigma, yeah, the social stigma. And like, okay, let's look back in the past with the evangelical Christians, right? It was if you played games, you were satanic. Games were satanic. Anything that was effectively a vice, but anything that was fun was bad. It was like, no, life is about suffering. Therefore, if you don't suffer like me, I'm gonna go after the things you like. And Pokemon was satanic. D&D was devil worship. And then after a while, it's like, oh, if you played video games, you were a school shooter, or you were like a murderous person in training. And this was brought about by like lawyers telling people who were, convicted of shootings that they've played Call of Duty to maybe rack in some level of sympathy. And because of this, it spawned an entire generation of brain rot that legitimately believes games cause violence. And again, it's this complex issue that you could never really truly rectify because people don't like being uh, the people don't like being pointed out that what the ideas they have are fucking stupid. There's like if your child is disconnecting from reality to play games, maybe there's a bigger issue, and maybe attacking the vice of that particular situation is a bad way to go about it because there's so many other vices on the planet, right? Like being the drugs, that could be legitimately violent, but instead they're playing games, and even then it's like, oh well, you're not allowed to do that. That makes you a bad person. It's like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And it's easy to just be like, oh, go out, oh, do this, and though those things are true, that's not what people want to hear. Like people want to hear someone to hear out their legitimate grievances, not to be, and people don't want to be shamed, right? And this is probably going to be my first video on YouTube, and I'm going to get banned yet again. Like, I 100% understand why young men join ISIS, why young men join, legitimately terrorist groups. Because it's like, okay, if this is the lot you've been dealt, and no one wants to hear you out, and no one cares, and you're treated like the enemy, well, if you look for demons in people, you're going to find it. But that's conservatives. That's on the right. But okay, let's look on the left. Okay, on the left, games make you racist, sexist, transphobic, this, that, is. And for a little bit of time, they tried implementing feminism into gaming, like with Anita Sarkeesian talking about sexism in video games. And it's like, okay, well, some of the stories in games weren't supposed to be interpreted like Mozart, like very intellectual deep dives. Like Mario saving the princess was not supposed to be, socially analyzed. Like it was a game that came out so long ago on an old system, like not even 100 kilobytes worth of data. So you had one cutscene at the beginning of the game, and the rest were platforming and brain dead platforming, and then you had one cutscene at the end in the game. And like these games, they weren't meant to be socially analyzed, but you had people that use ideology to uplift themselves and to get money and to effectively use oppression as one a weapon, two as a means or as an incentive to get money. And For a little while, people were raking in like okay, well, whatever. But then Gamergate happened, and when Gamergate happened, people seen again the industry, the people that are supposed to represent gamers, the majority, all of them left leaning, right? Shitting on the consumer, and this is what Gamergate was. It was the consumer going after the industry about ethics, right? And this was like 2015, 2016. And people refrain from even getting involved because it was happening on the internet. It was happening, in the internet warps reality. It was happening effectively in a completely different reality, that of the interwebs. But then you've seen it actually enter the games itself. And again, back when right wing censorship, it was like, and this is entertainment as a whole, but I'm trying to stick it to games, but entertainment as a whole, like the superhero had to always win. You weren't supposed to show violence, or you weren't supposed to, show, bad topics and bad things. You weren't supposed to critique religion. And when that level of censorship fell, you got probably some of the most vile comics and some of the most vile games, and all these things existed just to spite the people that were the censorships before the censors beforehand, right? But now you have like Dragon Age, and we beat this topic to death. You have Dragon Age Veilguard talking about gender identity in an IP in a fantasy world, and in a dark fantasy, and in an IP that had absolutely nothing to do about that. You have people of an ideology injecting their ideological stances into games, and it's also up to the corporate level. Like AAA gaming companies absolutely refuse to listen to their consumers, to the gamers, to the people that put food on the table. And it's obviously a refusal, right? Again, they're trying to mass produce art, which never works. And people can tell if things are being beaten to death, like if topics and if the IPs in art are being beat to death. This isn't something you can hide. You can shut your ears off to the very people that put money on your table, and to the people that claim to speak on behalf of the gamer, like gaming journalists, which doesn't really mean anything. It never really meant anything. It was this artificial arm of entertainment that I guess was imposed and companies legitimately gave lip service to. But at the end of the day, you'll have a Ubisoft situation. I was told that, and I try to stick this to games, but when it comes to entertainment, things pop into my head. I was told that Hollywood is in the shitter, right? Disney is in the shitter, Lucasfilms is in the shitter. Like, all these avenues of entertainment are getting fucking blasted, and showing that they actually were not making any money, and they were inflating their numbers just uh, for shareholders, right? But Disney Plus doesn't make any fucking money. Like, they've been in the red for a while. But going back into games, it's like, these companies, like, yeah, games cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years to make. Like, I don't think, like, what is the game that costs the longest to make? Like, Duke Nukem, the latest one. And I don't think Beyond Good and Evil is ever coming out. And you have all these shitty AAA projects that dare to stand beside, good indie games that are coming out. Like, they have the gall to believe that, no, we can still compete. Knowing good and well that, again, I identify as non binary. I will not buy a single Ubisoft product, maybe with the slight exception, right, of Beyond Good and Evil 2. But that's a very slight exception. And again, there's a social aspect as well because again, these companies, they use ideology. They have people of the ideology. They use consultants to shove ideology in the product. And when you're like, why the fuck is gender identity in a dark fantasy? Like, you are attacked. They treat you like you're the bigot. And what? You just want to play good games? Well, too fucking bad. We're going to moralize to you. And again, conservatives for some reason just don't want to stick up for gamers. Like, they see this, like, conservatives have completely ceded territory to the left based off things they just don't care about, gaming being one of them. And it's also that thing with the banning of porn, because clearly no one wants to defend porn. The way I see it is, okay, yet another situation where you need to put your government fucking ID on the internet. Again, I grew up in, the generation where the internet was the big bad boogeyman. Like, never use your full name, never put your phone number, always use an alias. Maybe on Facebook use photos, but not a lot. Or hell, don't even do that. And that's the culture I grew up in. But now for some reason people believe no, the internet's safe, the internet's okay. Give us your government fucking ID. And I get the idea is to ban a vice, but it's like, one, they could just find porn anywhere else. Two, there's other vices. And the same thing is being done with games. It's like no one wants to stick up. Again, so that's why gamers are probably the most oppressed group of people. Like, the companies don't care about you. The left don't care about you. The right don't care about you. And this is just based off a hobby. Something that you choose, a grown ass adult, choose to interact with. Because again, it's just treated like a vice, even though, again, we don't live in the 1800s. Like, not every day we have to work, shut the fuck down, then to wake up again to work. Like, you can afford to have a hobby, and, in even regardless of how bad the economy was, people choose to have hobbies, and they go towards these. But I guess gaming is not the right hobby. And why am I going on this rant? Well, I even Googled gamer. Now, Google is not a search engine, it's a pitch engine. And it's like, okay, I want to see maybe a couple pictures of, gaming in the early 2000s, right? But all I see is like esports, you have expensive rigs, you got product placements, maybe I guess he's a streamer. You get like these completely skewed ideas of what gamers are, right? And yeah, there are people that are gamers that have these types of setups, and this type of idea, but again, it doesn't take into consideration, what gamers used to be, which is just a couple dudes in their mom's basement. I mean, this maybe kinda shows like an esports. You have esports group. You have, I guess these are just wallpapers, some of them made by AI. Female, which, let's be honest, females just, even the females of the world of high school would be like, why the fuck are you playing games? Like, why don't you just, go into football like men, like adults? Again, it was probably one of the most stigmatized hobbies, and that's what it was at the end of the day, a hobby. Yeah, there's esports again. Like, I'm still looking. I guess this is, I don't even know what the fuck, the esports, what, streamer. Again, I'm trying to find one picture that accurately represents what gamers used to be. Instead of, like, I guess the corporate, I get there's Ninja. Okay, maybe this, right? Maybe, well, you got the chair. Like, back then, chairs like these you didn't have. Like, you used the goddamn couch. And sometimes you even use the goddamn, like, I don't know, cupboard to put your computers and shit. Okay, okay. It shows gaming systems like this, but then it also shows it next to this. It's like I'm trying to find a picture. Oh yeah, there's also an anime that accurately represents gamers in the early 2000s. I guess it just doesn't exist. Yeah, here's product placement. Uh, the anime again. Like, there has to be one. God damn it. But then again, this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, there's a skewed, now there's a skewed corporatized idea. Yeah, there's the VR, which all the games come out in VR. Like, VR was an okay idea, but now I feel like every new game is coming out in VR. I lost my train of thought. Okay, Cyberpunk. But yeah, I mean, there's this just corporate skewed idea of what gaming is, and that's, I guess, like it's streaming, it's esports, it's these $1,000 setups, and I'm not the one to talk. Okay, maybe like this or like this, but again, these big fucking flat screens weren't a thing. You have the big old blocky TVs that you had to fucking disassemble, then reassemble just to put it back. Yeah, and obviously, why gaming still has a women problem. Yeah, there's ideologues that use ideology to uplift themselves, and they look to the lowest common denominator, which apparently is gamers, to impose those ideas. There's the corpo art, right? Yeah, and again, I did this because okay, this is what GameStop used to look like. I guess this is gaming alley, but GameStop. Well, again, you didn't have the glass. Well, did you have the glass? Yeah, I think you had the glass, but now would just be full of fucking Funko Pops. 7 problems gamers with siblings understand. Fair enough. And again, you'd Google gamers, like again, I Googled gamers in the early 2000s and got games. Games people were interested in. But the emergence of black streamers and gamers, yeah, I wish this wasn't a political topic, but unfortunately, you have people that use politics and use identity. And the is like, you're not a black gamer. You're just a fucking gamer and a streamer. Like, for the love of God, use the correct fucking identification, please. Yeah, it's like I'm trying to find one. Okay. Okay, no, again, there weren't really these types of TVs back then. Like, I barely go on these rants, or I go on these existential rants that people will be like, you can shut the fuck up now. You're kind of in the weeds. Okay, maybe the setup in this photo, but not really the TVs. But yeah, it's like I'm trying to find a picture that accurately represents what gamers used to be, but I can't fucking find them because again, there's just this skewed corporate idea of games that are against gamers, right? Again, it's for any facet of gaming that makes money. It's not for gamers. It's not for the people who, whenever you were playing split screen and you'd have the cardboard box in the middle and you'd have the little brother sitting under it and the big brother looking on top. That was the anti-cheat back then, right? That was the original anti-cheat. Like, we didn't have de novo back then. But, yeah, I mean, that's really all I gotta say about this. I mean, for the most oppressed demographic of people based off nothing but a hobby that's both treated like a vice and a means to impose, ideology on complete fucking strangers. I think maybe that sentiment might go away. Like, even though, again, the candidate we have in America has won, I doubt any of the stigma in the past. Like, yeah, of course, Trump had stupid fucking opinions. Like, well, he's a human being. You can't fault a human being for just having one dumb fucking opinion. But that's all I gotta say about this. Peace.